My name's Melissa Strange, and my favorite movie of all time is Alice in Wonderland, specifically the Disney version. But this Friday, Alice Through the Looking Glass, the Tim Burton movie, is coming out. Now, in 2010, we had Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton style, and now we are having a sequel to that movie. So I thought that I would bring my good old friend Cheshire Cat over from the Disney version of Alice in Wonderland, and I would explain what happened in the Alice in Wonderland movie that Tim Burton did. This is going to be a recap of everything that happened, so hold on to your seats as we go through the entire movie as fast as I possibly can. So the movie starts out with Alice telling her father that she has a nightmare, so he goes to talk her back down to sleep. She tells her father that the dream included a dodo bird, a rabbit in a waistcoat, a blue caterpillar, a smiling cat, and a bunch of other crazy creatures. And so she asks her father if she's gone mad, and her father tells her, "Yes, I believe so, my dear, but only the best people are." Flash forward to 13 years later, a rebellious, fatherless Alice is in a carriage with her mother. She's not wearing a corset or stockings. She's gone cray. And they appear to be on their way to an event. The event that Alice is going to is actually a party that is going to be where she is proposed to. And while walking through the garden with her soon-to-be mother-in-law, who resembled to be a lot like the Red Queen, she notices a rabbit in a waistcoat and is like, "Did you see that rabbit in a waistcoat?" And then the mother-in-law is like, "No, you're crazy." So Alice meets Haymitch at the gazebo, and everybody, their friends and their family, are there watching. Haymitch gets down on one knee and proposes to Alice, and she once again sees the rabbit in a waistcoat and says, "Sorry, Haymitch, I need a moment," and runs away chasing the rabbit. She then gets to a rabbit hole, looks inside, and falls in and lands in a room filled with doors that are all locked, and on a table there's a key, and so she's trying to unlock the doors, and then she finds the littlest of all doors, and that one is unlocked by this key, so she can't fit because she is giant and the door is small. And she then notices a potion on the table that says, "Drink me." So she drinks it and shrinks down to like this big so she can fit through the door, but she forgot the key on the table and now can't reach it. So she then finds cake on the floor, because that's where we keep cake, and the cake says eat it. So she eats the cake and grows huge into the ceiling, and now she still can't fit through the door, but she can reach the key. So she drinks more potion, drops to the floor, gets through the door with the key, and is greeted by everything in her dreams. There's this spooky but beautiful garden filled with creatures and flowers and all of this, and then she's greeted by the white rabbit, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, talking flowers, the dodo bird, the dormouse, and they ask her who she is and if she's the real Alice, and she's all confused. She's like, "What do you mean? Of course I'm Alice." And they're like, "I don't think you're the Alice. You don't seem to be the Alice. We better go talk to Absalom and find out if you're the Alice." So when they get to Absalom, they unroll the oraculum, which is basically a calendar that shows them what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future. And they see that on the frabtious day, somebody who looks a lot like Alice must slay the Jabberwocky with the Vorpal sword. And I know that sounded like a lot of made-up words, but it was made-up words. We're talking about Wonderland here. Alice seems very confused and is like, "I'm not slaying no Jabberwocky." And then we hear the Red Queen's army coming from a mile away. So in comes the Bandersnatch, which is this big, crazy, spooky leopard running thing, and it's chasing Alice and everyone else. So they're running through this forest trying to get away, and then Alice stops and is like, "This is just a dream. This thing can't hurt me." And then the dormouse sees what's happening and comes running over and stabs the Bandersnatch in the eye and scoops out its eyeball, and now has an eyeball on a stick. Think like a cocktail with an olive on it. That's what she's got with the eyeball of the Bandersnatch. So her and Alice run and get away, and the Bandersnatch is left crying, but right before she runs and gets away, the Bandersnatch scratches her and leaves her 3 big lines on her arm, and she's bleeding, and they're running. And then a bird swoops down and snatches the Tweedledee and Tweedledum twins, and the Red Queen's knight snatches the oraculum and brings it back to the Red Queen. The knight brings the oraculum to the Red Queen and tells her what is going on, and the Queen demands that Alice be found, captured, and brought into the Queen to, well, off with her head. Wandering around lost in the forest, Alice bumps into the Cheshire Cat, who then promises to bring Alice to the Mad Hatter. When Alice arrives at the tea party, the Mad Hatter immediately recognizes Alice and goes, "That's you, I can never forget you." And Alice is like, "I don't know who you is, and I'm so confused." While having tea with the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the Dormouse, they can hear the Red Queen's army coming. So what happens is the Mad Hatter gives Alice some potion, she drinks it, shrinks down even smaller than she was, and fits into a tiny little teapot. And he holds a teapot on his lap. When the Red Queen's army finally leaves the tea party, the Mad Hatter and Alice decide that they are going to head over to the White Queen's castle. Once the Red Queen's army leaves, the Mad Hatter and Alice take their chances and head to the White Queen's castle, and along the way the Mad Hatter explains to Alice that the Red Queen and her army attacked the White Queen and her army and stole the Vorpal sword and burnt down a bunch of their land, and basically the Red Queen took charge of everybody and was like, that's what's happening right now, is that the Red Queen's in charge. But then they're once again being chased by the Red Queen's army. So what does the Mad Hatter do? He takes Alice, puts her on his hat, and throws her across this lake and says, "Go to the White Queen." And so they arrest the Mad Hatter, and Alice is exhausted because what has just happened, all this running and stuff, it's exhausting. So what does she do? She crawls under the Mad Hatter's hat and takes a nap. Alice is woken by Bayard, which is a bloodhound dog that is working for the Red Queen, but is actually with the White Queen, and wakes her up and says, "Look, I have to take you to the White Queen, let's go." But Alice demands that she goes to the Red Queen because she knows that the Mad Hatter is being held captive by the Red Queen. So Bayard goes and takes her to the Red Queen's castle. Once Alice gains access to the Red Queen's grounds, she sees the White Rabbit and tells the White Rabbit, like, "I'm small, do you have any of that cake to make me big again?" He gives her the cake and she grows really big, and then the Red Queen sees her and goes, "Who are you?" She goes, and now the Red Queen thinks that her name is and she goes, "Yep, I'm from Umbridge, and I've come here because I'm abnormally tall." And the Red Queen welcomes her because she welcomes people who look weird or whatever, because the Red Queen's head is so big. Her people, or her servants all have like big noses, big stomachs, big ears, and well, looks huge. Well, in the Red Queen's court, Alice, who is now because she's in the Red Queen's court, sees the Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter is being questioned by the Red Queen, and the Red Queen then gives the Mad Hatter a job to make her a hat. So he's no longer being bound at the wrists. They are cut. He can now go work for the Red Queen. Bayard then goes to the White Queen and lets her know that Alice is actually at the Red Queen's castle, and the White Queen is like, "Well, good, that's where the Vorpal sword is. She'll find it and come and find me." So Alice searches the Red Queen's castle for the White Rabbit, who knows where the Vorpal sword is, and when she finds the White Rabbit, we find out the Vorpal sword is being hidden in a cage with the Bandersnatch, the crazy tiger thing that scratched Alice earlier, and she's like, "I'm not going in there to get it," and she's all freaked out. But then she thinks, what if I go get the eyeball from the dormouse? So she goes and gets the eyeball and presents it to the Bandersnatch. She gives the Bandersnatch its eye back, he pops it in, and then her arm is so infected that she actually passes out. And I mean, either that or it was because she was scared, but she passed out in the Bandersnatch's cage. And then the Bandersnatch is there when she wakes up. It sees that she's cut, and as Alice reaches for the key to the Vorpal sword box, which is around the Bandersnatch's neck, he licks her cut and heals her. And Alice retrieves the Vorpal sword. Then the Red Queen's knight finds out that is actually Alice. And so he's like, now has to arrest her, and when he corners her, the whole army corners her, the Bandersnatch breaks out of its cage and grabs Alice, throws her on its back, takes off running into the distance towards the White Castle. Then the Red Queen's knight informs the Red Queen that was actually Alice, and she was not very happy about it and demands her head. And he lets her know that Alice stole the Bandersnatch and the Vorpal sword. She also orders that the Mad Hatter and the Dormouse get executed. Alice arrives at the White Queen's castle and returns the Vorpal sword to her. And in return, the White Queen helps Alice return to a normal size by giving her more of that pistol or whatever it's called potion. The White Queen explains to Alice that once Alice or somebody slays the Jabberwocky, the people will return to the White Queen's side and no longer fear the Red Queen, and that they're only on the Red Queen's side because they fear her. Basically, everybody is telling Alice to slay the Jabberwocky. She has another visit with Absalom. He tells her to slay the Jabberwocky. She has a chat with the Mad Hatter. Slay the Jabberwocky. Everybody wants her to slay the Jabberwocky. So the execution time has come, and as the executioner is about to chop the Mad Hatter's head off, the knife is coming down, and poof, Mad Hatter disappears, but his hat is floating in the air, and who is wearing it? Cheshire Cat. The Mad Hatter appears right next to the Red Queen and exposes that everybody around her is wearing these prosthetics to make them like fit in with her and appear abnormal so that she won't kill them. The Mad Hatter speaks up and says, "Everybody be against the Red Queen, down with the Red Queen." And so her internal army of people start kind of fighting against each other, and it allows the Mad Hatter and everybody to escape. And the Red Queen announces, "Prepare the Jabberwocky for battle!" So the Hatter returns to the White Queen's castle along with Bayard's family and the Dormouse and the Tweedledees and all of them who were captured. They're now all back together. Alice has another chat with Absalom, and while she's chatting with him, realizes that this isn't actually a dream, that she's been to Wonderland before when she was a kid, and that those weren't dreams she was having, but they were memories, which means the Mad Hatter's real, and the Cheshire Cat's real, and everybody's real, so she actually is going to have to stand up and fight the Jabberwocky, or all of her friends' lives could be in danger. So as the White Queen's army is preparing to leave for battle, out comes bursting through the castle doors on the Bandersnatch. Alice is ready to be the White Queen's champion and fight the Jabberwocky. When the Red and the White Queen's armies arrive and they're ready to battle, both the Red Queen and the White Queen must pick a champion to fight against each other. So the White Queen has picked Alice and the Red Queen has picked the Jabberwocky, which is a giant dragon flying around, crazy, fire-breathing creature. So as they're battling, the Mad Hatter interferes because he sees that Alice is in trouble, and that means, because he laid hands on the Jabberwocky, that the armies now have to fight, because now it's like fair game. The two champions are battling, you interfered, now we're all going to battle. So while everybody's battling Alice, it's like up on this crazy cliff thing with stairs breaking, and the Jabberwocky is flying around her, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting, and it's an intense, crazy fight scene, and Alice slays that Jabberwocky. Hooray, hooray, that Jabberwocky's head comes flying down this hill, and everybody on the Red Queen's army drops their weapons to announce that they are no longer following the Red Queen, but they are going to follow the White Queen. And the Red Queen is like ordering everyone to kill Alice, and nobody's budging. And the White Queen is crowned Queen of Wonderland again. The White Queen, instead of having the Red Queen and her knight murdered, actually just banishes them to some other part of the outskirts, and nobody's allowed to talk to them or help them or anything. They are just to live the rest of their lives out there. Then the White Queen presents Alice with some of the blood of the Jabberwocky, and that, if she drinks, will take her home. So she says her goodbye, says, "I'll see you before you know it, I'll remember you this time," and drinks her potion, and then comes crawling out of the rabbit hole and is back in London. The party is still on, and I mean, that felt like a really long time, but I guess time kind of just goes by differently when you're in Underland versus the real world. So she goes back, everybody is still gathered at this gazebo, and Hamish is there like, "I can't believe she left me." And then she says, "I'm not gonna marry you," and she starts telling everybody how it is because they're all faulted and they were all picking on her. So she tells everyone what it is, sets them all straight, and then goes to her dad's business partner and says, "I want to do business with you, let's go talk." So they talk, and she's like, "Why don't we expand my father's business all the way to China?" And then the movie ends with her getting onto a boat, I'm assuming heading to China, when a little blue butterfly lands on her shoulder, and she says, "Hello, Absalom," and then the blue butterfly flutters away, and the movie ends, and it was awesome! I mean, the graphics and everything alone, the storyline, everything rocked. Hopefully this video helped you get ready to watch this movie. If it did, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments down below how much you love Alice in Wonderland. And once again, everyone, my name is Melissa Strange, and until next time, stay strange. It's a full onesie.